Hello and welcome. This is Peace News. You're listening live this Sunday, October 5th, 2014. It's 5 p.m. here in Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world. You can catch this show at LRN-FM. There you'll find a chat room. You can interact with other listeners. You can also listen and watch at peacenewsnow.com/live. We interact with our listeners through Twitter at Derek JME, or you can dial in 443-424-8347, or hit up the Skypes by sending a contact request to Peace News Now. Your contact request will be accepted, and then I will put you on the air. Now, we've got a lot of great content and news stories to share with you today. Some grenade flowers, Twitter bans press secretary parody, Obama plays hooky with security, body cam of an execution, plus a wearable drone camera, all that. But first, we have a very special guest joining us on Peace News for the first hour. It's Mark Corske. He's the author of Engines of Domination, Political Power and the Human Emergency. You can find his book on Amazon, and it's recently been converted into a movie which will soon debut this month. Mark is on the line. Mark Corske, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Derek J. I've really been looking forward to this.
Well, I have as well, and I just completed watching a reviewer's cut of the movie, and I am thrilled. It is amazing. It's one of those where I'm going to be like, oh, yeah, 2014, that's the year Engines of Domination came out. Like, that was, it's that good. It chronicles, like, from beginning to end, you know, the human experience here on this planet, and what our relationship has been with power and what it could be in the future. Really exciting flick, and I loved it. So, but maybe for those who aren't as familiar, we should get into breaking it down. What is the human emergency?
Well, I call the human emergency the collection of crises that are happening and are going to continue to happen and worsen in the future. First and foremost, the threat of nuclear war. It's not on many people's minds, but it's a very real threat. I live about 75 miles from Los Alamos, where the atomic bomb was invented. And the United States, the Soviet Union, have thousands of strategic nuclear weapons ready to fire any old time. And as I'm sure you know, relations between the U.S. and Russia are not as good as they've been even in the recent past. Plus, there are many other nuclear states around the world. The threat of nuclear war is very real. In fact, the development of technologies for space warfare, the satellite weapons, anti-ballistic missile satellite weapons, and so forth, make, in my opinion, the threat of a real nuclear war greater than they've ever been. And then, of course, there's regular war. Many wars are in progress right now. There's a couple places where, especially in the Middle East and in Eastern Europe, with the Ukraine crisis, there's a possibility of things flaring up into very serious or maybe uncontainable wars. After that, there's destruction of our habitat, which is increasing and is going to continue to increase unless we throttle it somehow. Contamination, heat pollution. I assume everybody knows about those things. It's bad and it's getting worse, and it's having effects that are going to last for generations. There are biological problems. Enormous populations are gathered into cities now. Half the world's population is urbanized, and that makes a tremendous danger of pandemics that could cripple the world. Tremendous impact of disease that's never really been possible on a scale like this before. Plus the added vulnerability of populations from the stress of urban life, from toxins, from really bad diets that even many fairly privileged people consume. There's biological dangers there. I could mention genetic modified foods that have really unknown long-term effects when they're released into the habitat at large, and you can't recall those modified molecules once they're out there. And apart from these really critical, life-threatening, world-threatening dangers, there's the culture that corporate capitalism is imposing on more and more of the world, focusing people on acquisition and competition and isolating them and trapping them in a life between a lot of very hard labor for money and a lot of very intense distractions and rewards for that labor that really cuts them off from reality and from all the really deep things, the kind of the community connections, the spiritual connections that make human life meaningful. So the human spirit's getting degraded in more and more of the world at the same time that those greater crises are going on. So altogether, I call this situation the human emergency.
You begin your film with a dialogue from Socrates. Talk about the relevance of that conversation.
Well, I should explain where the script came from. Shortly after I published my book, I had an opportunity to give a talk about it here in Taos to Peace Action, New Mexico. And I challenged myself to try to encapsulate the most important ideas from the book in a 1-hour form. And it occurred to me that a fictionalized, the dialogue certainly isn't a Platonic dialogue, I wrote it. But it occurred to me that framing the essential issues at the beginning of the talk in a semi-fictional way and in a kind of discussion where the basic points and counterpoints to my arguments are made and outlined briefly and kind of poetically would be a really good way to draw people into it. Plus, in the original talk, I performed it with a former colleague and very good friend of mine. So it's like a kind of imagination-evoking preview of the more detailed development that the rest of the film makes of the ideas.
What about the idea of domination, and specifically domination as a tool?
It's quite a challenge there. Many people think that political power as we know it, armed central authority, states, war, privileged elites, is the natural way that human beings live, that as human communities grow and develop and become larger, these kinds of institutions develop naturally, like the kinds of social organization you see in communities of other species. Ants, bees, the dominance and submission relations that you see in higher animals, that this is just how we do it, that it's natural, or that it's necessary, that maybe human beings don't naturally do that the way bees live like bees, but that once you've got a lot of human beings and a certain degree of sophistication, that's the only way societies can function. I disagree with that. These kinds of organizations only appeared 6,000 years ago. They were really non-existent before that. Up through the late Paleolithic, there were highly organized and highly developed with agriculture and towns and trade, but they didn't have privileged rulers. The dwellings didn't show that there were elites. The art didn't typically depict weapons and war. People lived very differently, much more peacefully, and in a much more egalitarian way for most of our 250,000-year history. But in the last 3%, something very interesting happened. And it happened quite suddenly, in a matter of a few centuries. In Mesopotamia, Northeast Africa, these centralized authoritarian armed power structures appeared. Kings appeared, priests appeared, temples appeared, slaves appeared, wars appeared. And rather than believing that this is something that simply you necessarily have to have when societies develop, I think it was an innovation. I think that the two things that distinguish our species most from others is that we make tools and we domesticate animals. We harness external sources of energy in all kinds of ways. And that once the Neolithic communities had reached a certain degree of wealth and complexity, it was possible for small groups of men to domesticate the communities. That is what political power actually is. It's a system of institutions that were developed with the purpose of putting entire communities under central control.
Mark Corske is my guest. You can call in and ask questions, share your thoughts. This is Peace News. You can send a Skype contact request to Peace News Now. You can listen online at peacenewsnow.com/live.
Are you a political activist who does things that the government might not like? Then this free ebook may save your life. Rats.
Hey, Mark, thanks so much. I just cut us off for a 4-minute break. So if you need to get water or rest up or anything, we've got 4 minutes.
Okay.
And then it's a 10-minute segment, 4-minute break pattern. So we'll do 3 more of these.
Good. I'll keep my eye on the clock this time now that I know.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll come back at. Are you on West Coast time or East Coast? What time zone are you
I'm in Taos. I'm on Mountain Time, so I got a clock right in front of me.
Okay. Well, when we come back, my time it's 5:20, and then our next break will be at 5:29.
Got it.
Okay.
Years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on doing the Free State Project and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I am, is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. Find out about giving to our Google AdWords campaign at amp.freetalklive.com. That's amp.freetalklive.com.
Here's a chance to do a little activism while you're cruising Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. Between the LOL cats, the recipes, the hot girls, and the inspirational sunrise memes, Free Talk Live's post pass by your newsfeed. Like them, comment. It gives us more exposure. If you don't see our posts, click like at facebook.freetalklive.com and then hover over it to click Get Notifications. It's an easy way to spread the ideas of liberty a bit further. I know you're busy, but you can spare that 1/10 of a calorie it takes to click on something. facebook.freetalklive.com.
If you want to move to the Free State and you're looking for some real estate, well, I know a guy who's really great. It's the realtor Mark Warden. Do you want a home with 20 acres, a lakeside cabin, any takers for renters, buyers, and sellers too? Mark Warden is the guy for you. PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Now that you've found the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM, you may want to help expose others to our great programs. To assist you in doing so, you'll find resources at promote.lrn.fm, including details on how to get a free bumper sticker, quarter-page flyers you can print out and distribute, banners for your website, as well as files that will allow you to make your own custom banners and graphics. Visit promote.lrn.fm and help bring new listeners to the Liberty Radio Network. That's promote.lrn.fm.
Keenvention is coming up October 31st through November 2nd. Get your tickets now at keenvention.info. Keenvention is your chance to meet dozens of key liberty activists from across the Shire. You can explore the beautiful little city of Keene, discuss various forms of activism with seasoned veterans, attend social events like the costume party. Keenvention received rave reviews last year. If you missed it, visit keenvention.info for full video coverage of every speaker and panel. This year, James Robin Hood Cleveland, Rich Paul, and Free State Project President Carla Garrick will be keynoting. And we'll have all kinds of panels, including the new Cop Block panel and the new Movers panel hosted by the outlaw Josie Wales. Join old and new friends and neighbors in Keene for Keenvention this October 31st through November 2nd. Only 100 tickets are available in advance, so lock yours in now for just $60 or with Bitcoin. Reserve your tickets now at keenvention.info. Visit keenvention.info for more, or look for our page. That's keenvention.info.
If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites at amp.lrn.fm. That's amp.lrn.fm.
Welcome back to Peace News. You can dial in, Skype us at Peace News Now, or send a tweet to derekj.me. We're chatting with Mark Corske. He's the author of Engines of Domination, Political Power, and the Human Emergency. In the last segment, we asked, what is the human emergency, and how is domination used as a tool by the elites? And he was just, you are back with us on Peace News. Thanks for being with us.
Sure.
So let's return to where you were when you just got cut off. We were talking about domination as a tool, and you were just getting into the present era.
Well, I was saying that I think political power as we know it was an innovation, and some people learned how to domesticate the communities that they wanted to dominate for their own advantage. I think it's best to understand the institution created for that purpose as a tool, a device that serves a definite purpose. And specifically, domination, which is what I call that system of institutions, is a tool for making tools of human beings. It's a device that lets you use people as devices for your own advantage, regardless of whether they know fully what you're doing or whether they are willing to let you do it. You can get them to do that voluntarily in some cases. For instance, you can offer them incentives. And if that fails, you have to either deceive them into doing what for you, or you have to threaten them into doing it. So those are kind of the operating principle of this tool. Incentives, threats, and deceit are combined together in different ways to get a community to act in ways that primarily serve the advantage of the elites. This began about 6,000 years ago, and like any tool, when you refine it and make it more effective, it has more effects.
Well, what would you say to those skeptics who may object and say, but government is by consent, it is entirely voluntary?
Well, I'd ask them to substantiate that claim. When has it ever been entirely voluntary? If you want to point to the United States, for example, the United States was set up by a bunch of wealthy landowners and aristocrats who originally set it up so that only people of their ilk could vote. It was built on slave power. It was built by stealing a continent from its native inhabitants after fighting off the prior invading colonial powers. Where is the consent in that? Give me one example of a major world power that was ever created with the consent of its populace.
Yeah, it's
powerful and with their
to,
full knowledge.
I like how you put the onus on them, on the skeptic asking the question, because I think what you propose as an ideal, and we'll get to that later on, is so often dismissed without ever being attempted, without anyone ever trying it, or being happy with the status quo, when the status quo is, as you put it, at an emergency status. Anyway, I want to live with voluntary relations. So, how do we shut this engine of domination down?
Oh, I don't have a clue about that. I know that if we don't eventually shut it down, it's going to destroy the world. I think if you look very closely at how the engine works, you can see that different aspects of its operation are more or less vulnerable. Like, we're not going to shut it down by an armed rebellion that's suicide, and it would also cause an awful lot of bloodshed before the effort failed. What it can do is attack its weakest point, and the weakest point today is the way it works most powerfully: thought control. Thought control has been around since the earliest kinds of domination, largely through indoctrinating and regimenting the upper classes, like the priestly class and the scribes in ancient Egypt, for example, or the educated classes from the Middle Ages really until probably about the 17th, 18th century at least. But in modern times, since the invention of cheap mass print, and especially the 20th century mass communications, compulsory public education, thought control has become a primary way that modern domination works. It's incredibly effective. And I don't mean thought control like some kind of zombie hypnotic robot thing. I mean shaping the terms in which people think, the issues that they think about, the questions that they think of to ask, the issues that they think are important.
Can you give an example? That they, the way people frame that, like, what are sort of the boxes of mind control? What are the borders of that? Like, I know one popular anarchist, Tom Woods, says that there's a 3x5 note card of publicly acceptable public opinion. So, like, there are things that you can discuss in the political realm so long as they don't veer from that 3x5 card of acceptable opinions. So you've got like Hillary Clinton on one side and Mitt Romney on the other, but no, like freedom is nowhere in between.
Well, yeah, exactly. Or an example that recently came up in a conversation I had, someone was saying, does the United States have a moral obligation to take military action in Iraq? Well, what about, does it have any moral against international law anywhere? What about, how did the situation in Iraq arise? Did it suddenly, did Iraq fall from, how did Iraq fall from being, although a very authoritarian, a very prosperous and largely independent country, to being a country in ruins?
Yeah.
So the focus is narrowed in on these little strategic questions, and as Noam Chomsky's pointed out for decades, you can have a violent debate about these narrow little questions, but the broad rise to all the things that are happening is absolutely invisible and absolutely beyond discussion.
Yeah, that's such a great point. One of the forbidden questions I like to ask sometimes is, how did the government come to acquire the land that it claims to own? How was that justly acquired? And most people, if they think about it, will answer no. if they think honestly, it was stolen land. And but what does that mean? What are the implications of that? If the government doesn't have a legitimate claim to the land it claims to own, but it's still people around on that property and threatening them with cages if they don't pay up, or threatening to keep people out who want to cross an arbitrary border. What are the implications? It starts to unravel their web.
That's a good question, and it raises the bigger issue of what kind of country is this that built itself that way? Is it beyond imagination that this country could still be doing the same kind of thing in a subtler way around the world as it builds its empire, extending its influence into further places, more distant lands, causing harm to more distant peoples in order that the elites here can reap some advantage from that? Well, my goodness, it would be perfectly in character, wouldn't it? Because that's how the thing started.
We're talking with Mark Corske. He's the author of Engines of Domination, a book that you can buy right now on Amazon.com, subtitled Political Power and the Human Emergency. I'm enjoying this. And when we return, I'm going to ask him about some of the unintended consequences of domination. Plus, where do we begin with ending it? This is Peace News.
Sources are confirming that a man currently on a very intense cell phone call has been walking down the same city block for the past 45 minutes, periodically shaking his head and speaking brusquely to the individual on the other line.
How you feeling? Hanging in there?
Sure am. How are we doing?
Doing great. Yeah, I'm loving this. This is great. I'm just really excited. Like, I had never heard of you, but Justin Jazuski sent me that awesome video, and he does such incredible work with Carrie Lee Miller. And I watched this flick, and I'm freaking loving it. I mean, what I really love, and we're on a commercial break right now, so this isn't going out to the regular listening audience, though it is preserved on YouTube. I want to talk about, I took a note during the end of the flick. What did I say? Domination and precise intention to abolish domination forever. That was a quote. Read a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
No, I'm familiar with the title, but I certainly haven't read it.
That one in particular, it jumped out at me, though the theme is in like a billion other books of having organization and precise intention for accomplishing a goal. And that has been one of my goals for years is world peace. That's one I want to work towards for my entire life. It's a big, long-term goal. It's probably bigger than a lifetime. But if we have those, if we at least aim for these goals, then at least we're moving in the right direction with the right people. So I was just really excited to come across you and your wealth of knowledge, and this is just great. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the interview. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Volunteering. There's a lot going on in Keene. Keene is the Liberty Media capital of the world, with television, talk radio, and more, all originating here. Though it's more than just activism, with regular social events each week. See what's happening at freekeene.com and get connected with video, audio, free books, a forum, and activist tools you can download and use in your area at freekeene.com. That's freekeene.com.
Instead of just listen, so watch. See the Liberty Radio Network's Keene, New Hampshire-based live shows via our studio cam at cam.lrn.fm. Plus, you'll still be able to listen to the Liberty Radio Network via the cam feed in high quality 24/7, even when there's no live show being produced in our Keene studio. But wait, there's more. Our chat room is built into the cam page so you can interact with other listeners online. Listen, watch, and chat. All free at cam.lrn.fm. That's cam.lrn.fm.
The Shire Free Church offers a sanctuary to those seeking an escape from state churches.
The Shire Free Church is an interverse group of people that may not share identical theological beliefs. As a member in or minister of the Shire Free Church, you are a sovereign individual and may be the faith of your choice.
We don't claim to have all of the answers.
We are open to all peaceful people.
We want to learn from each other.
What unifies the Shire Free Church and its diverse members is peace,
love,
and liberty. There are many paths to God, one for every individual.
Our free church does not define a specific path beyond those parameters that must be your foundation.
Peace as your way,
love as your guide,
and liberty as your light.
Learn more at church.shiresociety.com.
That's church.shiresociety.com.
You can watch the LRN Studio Cam and chat with other listeners anytime at cam.lrn.fm. That's cam.lrn.fm.
Welcome back to Peace News. DerekJ.me. There's a web page with a chat room built in, webcam, and all sorts of listening options. We're chatting with a special guest on Peace News today. We will get to the news later, but first, Mark Corske is on with us. He's talking about Engines of Domination, Political Power, and the Human Emergency, his book, which you can buy on Amazon.com. And also, there's a film coming out later this month. Where should we be looking for that, Mark?
Well, Justin is doing publicity all over the place. It will be up on YouTube.
Yes.
And widely publicized through Facebook, Twitter, and so forth. Films in Action is planning to review and release it, possibly with some further publicity. I really don't know the details, but it's going to be all over the place, and certainly any Google search would turn up some information about the progress of the project.
How do you feel about people torrenting your movie?
Oh, freely.
Okay, well then maybe I'll do a torrent.
We intend to have, as far as I know, Justin mentioned that he wants to have a couple of free download sites.
Great. Well, then one place people can get the movie is at peacenewsnow.com. I'll have a link so that people can download it because I think it's terrific. And the more people who are torrenting a film, the more drone-proof it is. If the government ever wanted to, or those in power ever wanted to censor this information from reaching the ears of the public and their eyes, then we can help keep your film drone-proof. Anyway, I wanted to ask you about, first of all, we could get deep into domination as a tool and how to shut down the engines or some ideas. But I want to know more about you. Where did you come from, and where'd you get your chops? You know, where'd you get your creds, your street creds?
Well, let me postpone answering that just for a minute and finish the point I was making before the break. You were asking how to shut the engine down, and I said I certainly don't know, but thought control is uniquely important in modern domination, especially in the so-called democratic societies. That's the weak point. We can attack thought control, as you were saying, like with leading questions that make people question the box that they're trapped inside thinking. Anything we can do to counteract the thought control system by opening people's minds to new possibilities by awakening them to the actual realities that are outside their daily routine and their distraction, can only do good. And the more people realize that the problem is political power itself and not who is in power or this system or that system, this nation, that nation, whatever, the further we can move in that direction, the weaker the system will be as people find other ways to reform and reduce and eventually eliminate it.
Well, you're choosing one of the most powerful ways to break the propaganda, which is to create counter-propaganda yourself. It's so powerful, moving images, film, spoken word. This is the most powerful propaganda tool that those in power have to use. And fortunately, in 2014, it's as accessible to us as it is to them. So I'm so thrilled that you're making this movie, this book, and breaking the propaganda and the mind control in your way.
One of the best things that's ever happened to me was when Justin chanced upon my book at Amazon and came up with the idea for this project. It's going to bring the ideas to an audience that would never be able to plow through a serious long book like mine, and maybe inspire some people to look at the book itself, I hope. But it's the ideas that count. I'm not trying to sell books. Anyway, back to me. How did this happen to me? My credentials are kind of spotty. I spent 7 years studying mathematics and physics and quit without a degree after 3 years of graduate work. I got into philosophy as a teenager when I got hooked on Ayn Rand, of all things, and just became a complete Randroid. But it was an awakening to me that you really could think philosophically. I worked my way out of that and started thinking for myself by the time I was 20. Had a brief, for a few years I was close to the libertarian movement in its early days in Southern California. Knew quite a few of the major figures there, but I knew that wasn't the answer. At any rate, by the time I was 20, I was an anarchist and thinking for myself, and began to develop my own ideas really in earnest in my mid-20s. I'm now 63, so I've been at this a long time. My career was in teaching. I taught mathematics privately for a very long time, even had a little business in Denver. Then after I moved to Taos, I chanced on a job at this really wonderful alternative school here called Chamisa Mesa High School that just closed down 3 years ago. Enchanting place. The kids were treated like real human beings. College prep school. 9 out of 10 of them went on to college. But it closed, and now I'm essentially retired as a teacher and just living on a real limited income and working on my writing.
Okay, well, I appreciate that your journey has brought you to producing this book and this such important subject matter. So let's get into, where do we begin with ending domination? You said you don't know.
Beyond a systematic attempt to attack thought control, it is most important that we counteract the two worst threats of the emergency, of the human emergency, that we fight for nuclear disarmament, nuclear abolition, as hard as we can, and that we work to protect the environment as hard as we can. Those are the greatest long-term threats, and if either one of those goes the way it could go its worst, the game's over, and it doesn't matter whether domination is there when the game's over, it's over too, along with us. So it's very important to put powerful activism into resisting corporate power and military power in whatever ways we can. Putting legal constraints on the corporations, protesting and resisting.
Legal constraints on corporations? They can't be chained to constraints. they're
well,
gods.
They sure were. When the United States was founded, there were serious debates about not whether, but how to limit corporations, because the colonists had really suffered under the British East India Company and other trading companies that had been involved in colonizing the country. There were very severe restraints put on corporations.
By whom?
At the state level. The Constitution, they considered making constitutional restraints, but the decision was left in the hands of the states. And there were originally very powerful constraints, especially on banking.
So does that mean the state was powerful?
It means that individual states only let large, powerful businesses operate under very strict conditions. because these people knew the danger of unrestrained corporate power. It had been a formative influence in the development of the spirit of the country.
It's my understanding that corporations derive their power from the state.
Well, that has become the case, but it's a complete reversal from the situation that prevailed right into the middle of the 19th century. In the middle of the 19th century, tremendous fortunes were accumulating in the hands of the industrialists, the financiers. You know the names: Morgan, Rockefeller, Carnegie. These huge forces began to erode the legal restraints state by state. And as one state would drop its restraints, business would move there. Other states had to follow suit or lose business. And by the early 20th century, the restraints had been virtually stripped away. Then that process continued through the last century until the really kind of the orgy of removing restraints from corporations in the Reagan years. Today, the corporations basically rule the country. They can do things that no individual can do. They can commit crimes with impunity. They set policy by creating institutions that write policies that are then lobbied into law. They fund and shape elections. It's an awesome new form of power that really never existed before. So they got that by eroding legal restraints on them. Legal restraints can and must be.
On a free society where humans are unobstructed by those in power who would seek to keep them down, keep them unfree from trading with their friends and neighbors or using their imaginations any way they wish. So how do we get there? Will it be like the dissolve of the state or of the church? Oh, I didn't get to quite ask that question the way I had hoped during the lead up to the break, but I guess where I want to go with this is I had a conversation with, I live in a community of anarchists, and one of my friends and I were discussing yesterday, could the loss of power of the state look anything like the loss of power from the church? Like, remember, the church was big and powerful and killed people, and you have to do what we say or else you'll die, or cages. And then that sort of went away. Like, the churches that I know that are down the street, they don't cage people, they don't kill people, but they have this violent history. So could it be one day in the future that people have their government or their town hall or whatever down the street, but it's sort of as irrelevant as the churches are today?
Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that be nice? I think that would be great. But who knows? I just wonder if that's sort of the direction that we might be headed, because that's what history has given us. I don't know any other examples of organizations that had huge amounts of power, like enough to wage wars, and then were shrunk into the size of, like, you could drown them in a bathtub.
Yeah, but political power got stronger at the same time that the church got weaker. And I'm afraid there's no analogy there, really.
Yeah, so it was just a change of hands.
It was a change of hands and a change of form, yeah.
It sounds like that's sort of what you were talking about in the last segment, too, with the bigwigs, financiers, the robber barons, or whatever you want to call them. It's like, it was just another changing of hands of, like, hey, we got to change our uniform, put on a new suit, and, like, we're it's the same old boss, new boss, same as the old boss, or whatever the expression is. I don't know.
The thing evolves. It evolves.
It evolves.
Under popular pressure.
So we've got, like, a moving target that we've got to keep our eyes on. It's also hard in the next segment. I also want to talk about humans as an organism. Like, I feel like I heard this. I don't know if it's true or not, that mushrooms communicate sort of through their root system, so that if there's some nutrients over one direction and some mushrooms down the way need that nutrient, it sort of like travels along underground, and the nutrients get where they need to go. Well, I sort of see humans as this organism that communicates with each other about important information that we pass along to each other about ways that we can better thrive and survive. And it seems like this key nutrient, this information that political power is destructive, is that's what we need our whole civilization to like vibe on that fact. We all need to be nutrient rich in that information. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
I don't know how to
huge
explain
difference.
it. Yeah,
it would make a huge difference if people understood that that was the problem and not the specific forms that political power takes and the specific problems that it causes.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it. We got 20 seconds until we come back, and then we'll be going from 47 to 57.5. Okay.
Immigrate to the Shire. Plus, add yourself to the Shire map at shiresociety.com. That's shiresociety.com.
You're listening to the best liberty-oriented audio streamed around the clock, on the air, and online. This is the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Welcome back. This is Peace News. We're chatting with Mark Corske. He's written a book, Engines of Domination, Political Power, and the Human Emergency. You can catch it at Amazon. He's got a lot of fascinating perspective as a philosopher, thinker, and former math teacher. He looks at the world in a different way and asks some forbidden questions, let's say. Top of the questions on my mind are, how do we end this domination, this tool of domination? How do we free ourselves? I, as an activist, have moved to New Hampshire to get together with other liberty lovers who are working on the Freedom Project, as I call it. We want freedom in our lifetime, real freedom. Not just the freedom to choose a blue or a red candidate, but the freedom to choose no candidate at all, no masters. And that's what I'm working towards. So I see the seat of political power itself as a threat to my life and my freedom. And I would like other humans to see that as well. I think Mark makes the case quite well in his book and upcoming documentary. And, well, anyway, Mark, how can we infiltrate this message to the biggest population possible? How can we get everyone to know what is so vital, that political power is destructive?
I don't think there's any way to get it to everyone. The people that have to understand it best are the ones that are motivated to do something about it, I think. If activists understand what they're really up against, that can only help them design their efforts to be effective. It doesn't take all of the population to transform a society. The transformations can come from major revolutions have come from 20 to 30% of a population. There's a huge amount of inertia, and honestly, that's good. It's not, people are apathetic, they don't care. People want to just live their lives. They want to get up and do something useful and be with their families and friends and enjoy their communities. And taking action to change things and challenge things is a real bummer for that kind of thing. And it's very good that people want to live that way, but it doesn't take a lot who are willing to live in a different way and fight to make things different, to change things.
Yeah, once
things are changing, others will come along.
I agree. One of the ways people are changing things in their daily life is by trading in things like Bitcoin, which I have seen free people from the currency of war, the US dollar. People can choose a currency that's invented by individuals rather than a currency that's forced on them by a government. There's a lot of differences there, and it doesn't empower the war state when you use an alternative currency.
Well, so here's my answer to your question. We can do several things. First, like you're doing there in Keene, you can organize. You can bond together tightly with people in a community that have common values, common goals, and that organization provides a kind of strength, a kind of power to your action that individuals acting alone simply can't have. Coalitions can be formed between local organizations like that, and they can be formed on the drop of the hat. Rigid and potentially very authoritarian organizations, local organizations around anything, around common interests, around community foods. People need to get together and break this atom mine. Second, we can build alternative institutions, like you mentioned, Bitcoin. It's not like Stalinist Russia, where you can only do so many things. There's a huge amount of room for building things like community food production, for workplace reform. Like darn it, I cannot think of the name of this wonderful economist who's working with people in redesigning how industries operate so that the workers are more directly in control of what's going on. You build alternative institutions within this one on the basis of your community organization. Then finally, if anything is going to change the world at large, it's going to come through huge struggles and huge crises that simply can't be foreseen. And we have to have faith that people in the crunch of those crises, where they happen and when they happen, will rise to the occasion and take actions that we cannot plan or foresee. If we could figure out how to dismantle the engine, the people in power could take countermeasures and neutralize us. It doesn't have a vulnerability like that little portal in the bottom of the Death Star. And if it did, and we discovered it, it would immediately be closed. It's going to be a struggle of human ingenuity, human creativity, and the bonding of people together into communities that act in creative ways we can't imagine and face difficulties that I'm sure are going to be very grave. It would be great if we could change the world with a party, but it's not going to happen. Furthermore, the problems that we're facing in the United States are just the tip of the iceberg of the problems around the world in places where things are still much more difficult. It's getting harder here, but it's much, much, much harder for poor people in third world, so-called developing countries. A huge amount of the impetus to change the global system is going to come from outside our borders, from people we'll never know, over issues that we may not even know about. Combined all together, these three factors, community building, alternative institution building, and then resistance against specific parts of the engine where it's operating in specific places and really hurting people in specific ways, is the only way ahead that I can see. The future doesn't exist. We can imagine it, but it's just an idea. All that exists is what we've got now. It's evolving constantly. It's never the same for two instants. But trying to picture a plan for the future, like trying to imagine what's going to happen later on in a movie, that's nonsense. We've got to have faith that people are really wonderful, loving creatures given half a chance, that they come together and help one another given half a chance, and that people want a good life enough for themselves, for their children, for their remote descendants, that as these difficulties get worse, based on the community organizations and the alternative institutions that can be built in the meantime, through some kind of unimaginable drama down the road somewhere, a really very much better world can emerge. We shouldn't let not being able to imagine how keep us from doing whatever we can now.
And we should stretch our imaginations to imagine an even better future. I envision a future, Mark, in which the governments of today are as irrelevant as the churches of today. And what I mean by that is there was a time in history when churches reigned supreme over the entire world, and they would go and kill people if you didn't believe like they wanted or didn't act the way they wanted. They would torture people and cage them. And that's exactly what modern governments do to people today. The U.S. federal government tortures people, cages more than the rest of the world combined, and wages wars, as we all know. So is it possible, I hope it is. I envision this future where people start to question the power of the state the way they questioned the power of the church, and it loses its power altogether. And rather than just power changing hands, it actually, for once, loses its power because people reclaim it for themselves.
It can be abolished. In principle, domination can be abolished. Not just lose its power, but be not only eliminated, but made impossible to recur. I'm certain of it. We've only been living with this monstrous thing for 3% of our human history. We can put an end to that deviation. It's possible in principle to have a world where it isn't just irrelevant, it's non-existent, and it can never happen again. I really believe that. Not that I have any idea how, or that I think it will be anything like easy, but that's the little gleam of light off in the future.
Well, I see one way. It's through technology, because technology is replacing the things that the government has traditionally done, like a register of deeds. Who needs that anymore when we've got a blockchain and you can record things, do proof of work, proof of existence? Technology is empowering the individual past the point where governments can control us.
That's possible. I just don't know. I know we've got it in us. If we get together and act with a precise intention and indomitable determination, we can do it. We can get rid of the damn thing.
Mark Corske, Engines of Domination. Go pick up his book at Amazon and watch his movie. It'll be out later on this month, and I'll have the links at Peace News, and it'll all be over Facebook. Thanks again for being with us today, Mark.
Thank you, Derek J. It's been a blast.
All right. Peace. All right. So that for us, thank you so much for being on today, Mark. I really appreciate it. I'll send you a link to this interview at like in an hour and a half, about 90 minutes when it's uploaded.
That's great. I'll let everybody know.
All right. Thanks a lot. Peace.
I'm so glad you liked the movie.
I loved
Justin.
it. Yeah, I loved it. Tell him I want to torrent it.
I sure will.
All right. Peace.
Okay. Bye-bye.
God, unbelievable! Why are you running from me? Because you're scared me. What am I being detained for? You're being served. What is this? You're being served. What is this?
Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com.
Imagine someone in your community getting in their car, turning on the radio, and hearing the Liberty Radio Network. You can make that vision a reality with your own micro radio station. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how you can put our programs on the air in your area. You can have LRN.FM running around the clock, and you can even add in your own local shows. Building a radio station is simple, but programming isn't. That's where LRN.FM comes in. Learn more at broadcast.lrn.fm. That's broadcast.lrn.fm.
Ross Ulbricht was arrested by the FBI in 2013 and charged with victimless crimes in relation to allegedly operating the Bitcoin-based Silk Road black market. He has been in a prison cell awaiting trial ever since. If he did it, he's a hero for making the black market a safer place. If he did not, he's a man wrongfully accused. Either way, if you love freedom and want to end the war on drugs, Ross and his family need your support. You can learn more and help fund his defense at freeross.org. That's freeross.org.
More Peace News Now is coming up next, live after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Sunday, October 5th, 2014. Silver is trading at $16.86 per ounce. Gold is valued at $191 per ounce, and according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $310. Antiwar.com removed with potentially enormous regional consequences, the Pakistani Taliban has pledged its backing of the Islamic State, promising to provide the caliphate with fighters and every possible support. The comments were made in a statement by the Pakistani Taliban Central Committee spokesman, who urged other Islamist factions to put all your rivalries behind you to unite against foes of the Islamic State. Pakistani Taliban splinter group Jamaat al-Ahrar also expressed support for the Islamic State in their own statement, saying they are willing to mediate a settlement between the Islamic State, al-Nusra, and other militant factions within Syria. The move risks increasing the profile and aggressiveness of the Pakistani faction in the wake of Pakistani efforts to try to negotiate a settlement with the Pakistani Taliban. The U.S. war could be fueling blowback across the world. FPP Radio News is brought to you by Coinbase. Coinbase is a simple and secure online Bitcoin wallet for sending, receiving, and storing Bitcoin. Get started at coinbase.fppradio.com. That's coinbase.fppradio.com. The Associated Press reports, bolstered by a massive rally overnight, Hong Kong's pro-democracy activists were defiant on the 8th straight day of protests Sunday in the face of attacks by opponents and government warnings to clear the business district streets they have occupied to press their demand for reform. Thousands chanted "Democracy now, democracy in Hong Kong" as speakers from the movement seeking wider political reform for this former British colony urged them to persist in their campaign. The rally lasted hours, with participants at times clapping and cheering as a stream of speakers and singers addressed them and performed popular songs. The night passed peacefully despite fears that police would act to clear out the protesters. The city's top leader appeared on television Saturday evening to once again urge everyone to go home, saying things needed to get back to normal by Monday. Standoffs between the protesters and their antagonist grew ugly Saturday as the two sides traded insults and at times taunted police. Although the student-led protesters have stuck to their pledges of nonviolence, holding up their arms to show peaceful resistance, some shouted abuse at people who gathered to challenge their occupation of a main street in the gritty blue-collar Mong Kok district, which is home to many migrants from the Chinese mainland. Some shouted, "Go back to the mainland," cursing them in the local dialect of Cantonese. FPP Radio News is brought to you by Roberts & Roberts Brokerage. For over 35 years, Roberts & Roberts has been a trusted source of your investment-grade precious metals. They now take Bitcoin for purchasing precious metals so you can turn your profits into a long-term investment. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on investing. 800-874-9760. Reuters reports, deposed Haitian dictator Jean-Claude Baby-Doc Duvalier died of a heart attack on Saturday, closing the book on a political dynasty notorious for human rights abuses and corruption in the poorest country in the Americas. Was confirmed by his lawyer, Reynold Georges. Duvalier was 63. He inherited power from his father, Francois Papa-Doc Duvalier, when he was just 19 years old in 1971, but fled into exile in 1986 during a popular uprising which ended 28 years of rule by the father and son dynasty. After spending 25 years in France, Duvalier returned to his Caribbean homeland in January 2011 and was briefly detained on charges of theft and misappropriation of funds. A Haitian court in February ruled that Duvalier could be charged with crimes against humanity under international law, and that he could also be held responsible for abuses by the army and paramilitary forces under his rule. He was, however, a portly poster child for wanton misrule, failing to address the poverty and illiteracy of Haitians while his family and friends indulged in a luxurious lifestyle. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
Japan grants suffrage to female robots, and a hypochondriac maple tree is always convinced it has Asian longhorn beetles. The following two statements are true. The previous statement is false, and this is the Onion Week in Review. This week, Americans nationwide were stunned to hear horrific allegations on Wall Street revealing that numerous junior bankers have been forced to survive on a mere $6,800 per week. The findings, which implicate numerous high-profile financial institutions such as Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, and Citibank, suggest that hundreds of first-year bankers are constantly Recently deprived of basic necessities, including penthouse apartments overlooking Central Park and regular company-financed vacations to the French Riviera.
Many of these bankers are 23 or 24 years old and don't even have access to an expense account of over $50,000 a year. Not only that, but some of them are making as little as 20 times minimum wage. I mean, this is truly disgraceful.
This is the Onion News Network.
Welcome back to Peace News. It's the second hour here, broadcasting from Keene. And is Keenvention. You don't want to miss it. All the activists in Keene and New Hampshire convening into one hotel for a 3-day weekend. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, October 31st, November 1st, and November 2nd. There's going to be a huge dance party, which I am planning for the benefit of Andrew Jones. He is one of the alleged admins of the Silk Road website, a black market website where people could trade in whatever sort of currencies they wanted. And if he is guilty, then he's a hero for making the black market a safer place. And if he's not, then he's an innocent man who's being charged with some pretty serious crimes, which could see him behind bars for life. Now, a news story from The Atlantic. A year after the death of the Silk Road, Darknet markets are booming. This from Jake Swearingen, October 2nd, 2014. He writes, they're not safe. They're full of scams. They're entirely fractured. But online places to buy aren't going away anytime soon. It's been 1 year since the FBI shut down the Silk Road, the granddaddy of Darknet marketplaces, and arrested the alleged main Silk Road admin, Ross William Ulbricht, or as he's known online, Dread Pirate Roberts. Silk Road users who navigated to the Darknet site on October 2nd, 2013, instead found this. This hidden site has been seized by the Federal Bureau of Investigation in conjunction with the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, ICE, Homeland Security Investigations of the Drug Enforcement. You know, all this long, like, blah, 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 laws, here's our badges. Like, they literally did this. The government agents made a graphic with the Silk Road icon in the background in a watermark with their insignia and badges. Scans of shiny badges, U.S. Special Agent, Department of Treasury, Department. They really did this so that users of the site would be greeted with their graphic instead of the regular Silk Road website. So for those who relied on the site to anonymously buy everything from pot to AK-47s, it was a bit like trying to log on to Amazon and finding it had shut down overnight. Panic ensued. Bitcoins disappeared into the ether, and users were suddenly forced to find a new place to anonymously shop online for blow or body armor. There's no denying that Silk Road was an unseemly place. Actually, I didn't find it that unseemly. I've used it myself. I navigated through the website for many months while it was in existence and never found it to be unseemly. Maybe not the best looking website. Graphically, I think it had a lot to catch up with. But hey, for how it worked and what it did, it was a great site. Not unseemly at all. But it was also a centralized one. And in the years since the site's shuttering, the Darknet market has fragmented as various new players have attempted to take Silk Road's place, making an already sketchy scene all the more shady. Now, that's a weird way to put it by this author at theatlantic.com, because typically competition makes for a better market, not more unseemly or shady. According to a directory of Darknet markets on Reddit, more than a dozen are currently operating, and unsurprisingly for markets in which anonymity is vital and nearly every purchase is very much illegal, scams and outright theft have plagued many of the upstarts. In fact, the list of Darknet markets not to be trusted is longer than the list of ones which Redditors have deemed reliable. Well, isn't that to be expected? I mean, out of a black market business, you're going to see more scams than viable trades because there's no third party to go to when you have a scam. So, of course, where scams are incentivized, more will exist. One early example of how quickly things could turn sour in post-Silk Road era was Sheep Marketplace, which began operating quietly in March 2013. After Silk Road was shut down, users flocked to the site. For a while, it seemed poised to be the new Silk Road. I even did an article about it. Until a vendor allegedly exploited a vulnerability and made off with $6 million in bitcoins. The marketplace abruptly shuttered soon after, taking with it all funds stored on the site. Many suspected the site operator to actually be behind the theft. Online sleuths attempted to track the stolen bitcoins, reportedly worth anywhere from $100 million to $220 million at the time, as the thief attempted to hide his or her tracks. Or consider the case of Silk Road 2.0, launched in November of 2013, November 6th, just 1 month after the original Silk Road was shut down. Silk Road 2.0, run by former admins of the original Silk Road, was supposed to be a fresh start. Its fall from grace happened within months. In February of this year, the site claimed to have been hacked by one of its vendors, who made off with $2.7 million in users' bitcoins. While the site's administrators have promised to repay everyone who lost funds, many claim that they have not yet been repaid. Although, okay, so this Atlantic journalist is writing with his own slant. I have to say, I know friends personally who have said they have been paid back by Silk Road 2.0 admins. So, hey, you're going to have claims on both sides, and I think it speaks volumes that these admins actually changed their business model after Silk Road 2.0 was hacked. Now they no longer have escrow accounts. They no longer have trusted third-party service because that was vulnerable. And so they've changed their business model. They've made their market a safer place. Yeah, there's some trial and error to that, but don't just claim that people aren't getting repaid. Some are. The list of darknet markets that have suffered from various hacks, thefts, and outright deceit is long and varied. Many have either shut down or have effectively dead due to what appears to be either a lack of competence or an overabundance of greed, or in some cases, a mixture of the two. All of this, of course, is in addition to the various scams and ripoffs faced by actual users and vendors on the site, from sellers demanding money up front, normally the money is held in escrow until the terms are delivered, to buyers refusing to pay vendors. And while online drug shopping may seem safer to both the buyer and seller than scoring drugs on the street, there's still significant amounts of risk. In May, Jeremy Donegal, who went by the moniker Xanax King, was arrested along with 8 others, charged with selling hundreds of thousands of bars of the powerful anti-anxiety drug throughout darknet markets. Should also be no surprise that within days of his arrest, users were already posting lists of new Xanax Kings. Indeed, despite scams and worries about law enforcement crackdowns, darknet markets continue to hum along. Agora Marketplace, perhaps the most trusted of the modern darknet markets, seems from every indication to be doing brisk business. Most darknet markets take a commission of every sale made via its services. Within minutes of downloading the Tor browser and finding a referral code, I was able to quickly skim through hundreds of listings of everything from shotguns to barbiturates. For instance, I bought for just $85, I could purchase a half gram of black tar heroin. One user reports, dope wasn't super strong, but transaction was smooth. And then it has a graphic here so you can see what it looks like when someone is using the website to purchase black tar heroin. Here's what it looks like via theatlantic.com screenshot. You can see it has the amount listed in US dollars. It has a brief description. Looks pretty much like what you would expect to see on a Craigslist or an eBay. For $2,570, I could buy a Scorpion VS61, a Czech-made submachine gun. This is the same gun Could be bought in the U.S. for about $1,000, but most Darknet gun sales are aimed at European users who face significantly stronger gun controls. Very interesting. So this is a place where people are coming together, sharing value for value. Should that be abolished? Or should people be left free to trade as they wish? This is Peace News.
Ladies, with the U.S. divorce rate near 30% and this job market, looks matter. Breast enhancement or reduction, a tummy tuck, or a little lipo can work wonders on you and your confidence. With hospital rates at fractions of U.S. prices, and thanks to the recent Thai coup, unheard of low airfare and jaw-dropping deals on luxury hotel rooms. Provide a little info. Get a quote. Hit us up at AsiaRunLikeHellGuide.com.
Keenvention is coming up October 31st through November 2nd. Get your tickets now at keenvention.info. Keenvention is your chance to meet dozens of key liberty activists from across the Shire. You can explore the beautiful little city of Keene, discuss various forms of activism with seasoned veterans, attend social events like the costume party. Keenvention received rave reviews last year. If you missed it, visit keenvention.info for full video coverage of every speaker and panel. This James Robin Hood Cleveland, Rich Paul, and Free State Project President Carla Garrick will be keynoting. And we'll have all kinds of panels, including the new Cop Block panel and the new Movers panel hosted by the outlaw Josie Wales. Join old and new friends and neighbors in Keene for Keenvention this October 31st through November 2nd. Only 100 tickets are available in advance, so lock yours in now for just $60 or with Bitcoin. Reserve your tickets now at keenvention.info. Visit keenvention.info for more, or look for our page and event on Facebook. That's keenvention.info.
The three most important things you can do for LRN.FM are: 1. Let your friends know you're listening to LRN.FM on your social networking profile. 2. Buy the things you buy online through shop.lrn.fm. 3. Give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm. It's my firm belief that the AMP program is the best use of your charitable dollar among liberty-oriented groups. Support all your favorite organizations, but make sure you give $5 a month to the amp.lrn.fm. I love My Magic Mud. I drink a lot of coffee. I had stains on my teeth. Then I found My Magic Mud, and I was told it would remove stains. So I paid attention when I brushed the first time. My Magic Mud is black tooth powder, and the difference it made in my teeth in one application was noticeable. With 4, my teeth were as white as you normal folks out there. Please go to mymagicmud.com and buy a jar. There's 150 applications for $25. You can use Bitcoin, mymagicmud.com.
If you can't listen to the Liberty Radio Network's internet streams, free satellite channel, or radio affiliates, no worries. You can listen to LRN.FM from any phone, anywhere. Add this number to your phone: 213-493-0309. It's a long-distance call, so make sure you're familiar with your phone's calling plan. The Liberty Radio Network listen lines are locked into our stream 24 hours a day. Call 213-493-0309. That's 213-493-0309.
If you're looking for work, there's a piece of paper more important than your resume. It's the cover letter attached if you're snail mailing, or the email to which you attach your resume. Make it 4 short paragraphs. Paragraph 1, say that you're applying for work. The person you're sending to gets a ton of mail about all sorts of things. If you have a password, that's your first sentence. Tom Nelson tells me you and I should meet. Paragraph 2, what you do and how that relates to the opening. Be as specific as possible. Paragraph 3, why you want this particular job. I'm originally from Boston, so I know the market well. I have family and friends in the area, so this would be a homecoming for me. Paragraph 4, unless the job posting stipulates no calls, and I will call you to follow up. Thank you in advance for your time. From survivalspeech.com, I'm Holland Cook.
While our satellite channel is free to listen to, it's not free for us. You can help us cover our satellite costs with the chip in on the right side of the page at lrn.fm.
I was corrected by one of our listeners. The Silk Road didn't have any weapons. I don't remember seeing those when I was on there, just drugs. There were some other things. I think you could get some fake IDs, even some real IDs, but I don't remember seeing weapons. But these screenshots, to be clear, are coming from Agora Marketplace, a website that this author from the Atlanta used when he was researching this piece on darknets and how darknet markets are not going away anytime soon. That to market demand. Of course, when one supplier is removed, be he by the federal government or by local law enforcement, it will be replaced by another supplier because demand continues. So, of course, from the article where he explains he's talking about the Xanax Kings and how he was able to get black tar heroin or a submachine gun, and that most of the guns that are sold place are Americans selling to Europeans who have heavy restrictions. He said the most fascinating section of many darknet markets, however, is the information section. While the internet effectively offers nearly every bit of information you could dream of for free, there appears to be a thriving black market for certain types of knowledge. For instance, for 99 cents, or about 0.087 bitcoins at current valuation prices, I could purchase a book on building secret hiding places. Or that staple of every teenager's online life in the dial-up days of the 90s, the Anarchist's Cookbook, can be had for $1.58. At deep.web, an anonymous editor chronicles everything Darknet related, from the latest in cryptocurrencies to the rise or fall of new Darknet markets. In an email interview, the editor, who asked to remain anonymous, predicts that the crazy explosion of smaller markets may be on the wane. Quote, "The market was pretty stable for the last few months, unlike 2014, he writes. I believe it will stay pretty much the same, with some markets popping up and some shutting down for this reason or another until we see some new technology, probably one that will offer decentralization of the markets." And despite thefts, scams, and news of arrests, he says more and more people are using darknet markets. There are no reliable numbers about the number of users, unless a large market owner will share them, but I can tell you this for sure. The number have grown by a huge amount of users. The amount of media exposure the darknet markets has had this year is unbelievable, and the amount of traffic I see as a ClearNet site that's looking for those markets is huge. It's almost mainstream nowadays. In other words, while the feds may have successfully shuttered Silk Road 1.0 and put Ross William Ulbricht behind bars while he awaits trial, business for online black markets is better than ever. Technology is empowering the individual past the point where governments are able to do anything about it. So yeah, they can cage your body. Ross Ulbricht may be behind bars, and he may be there for life. I hope not. FreeRoss.org is the website you can donate bitcoins or dollars to help his legal defense fund. But governments cannot stop black markets. They can take out one individual in the black market. But the days of, oh, we take out one kingpin and then the whole market falls apart, they're over. That's old mafia style. Now it's decentralized, and it's not the mafia that's in charge. It's just regular people. So very exciting article by Jake Swearingen at The Atlantic. Yep, darknets are booming, and they're not going anywhere. But speaking of things that aren't allowed, some forbidden art, some censorship is happening in the UK. A council removes Banksy artwork after complaints of racism. Oh, wait, this isn't the UK. This is a report from The Guardian, but I think this happened in the US. Let's get into it here. This is Banksy artwork Banksy is struck again, but a council in the east of England, there we go, it's England, has struck back, removing his artwork, saying that it contained offensive and racist remarks. The latest mural by the controversial graffiti artist, whose real identity is not widely publicized, was painted overnight in Clacton-on-Sea in Essex, a week ahead of a by-election in the town triggered by the decision of local conservative Douglas Carcel to defect the UK independence, blah, 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 blah. So it's some political thing, and Banksy is saying we're going to make some political statement before an election happens. And I'll show you the image that was apparently banned. This is an image of 4 birds, we've got about 5 birds on the left and then 1 bird on the right of a wire. And the 5 birds are all black doves, or maybe they're crows. They are holding signs that say, "Migrants not welcome, go back to Africa, keep off our worms." And then there's this smaller, colorful bird, maybe an African swallow. I'm unsure. And it's looking maybe forlorn, maybe a little bit sad at the other birds. So they're angry or sad at each other. So it's a powerful image. It reminds us that we're all part of the same human family. Like, these are all birds, and they can peacefully coexist. Why can't we? The work showed 5 gray pigeons. Oh, there we go. They're pigeons holding up signs, including one stating, "Go back to Africa," towards a more colorful migratory swallow. Well, I wasn't too far off. One of the pigeon signs read, "Migrants not welcome," while another held a placard that read, "Keep off our worms." UKIP argues that Britain's immigration policies are too lax. Nigel Brown, communications manager. So I guess Banksy is speaking out against a politician who has a policy of trying to keep the borders limited, trying to use violence to restrict people from crossing our border or crossing the UK border and finding work. Keep off our worms. That's a direct allusion to they're taking our jobs. Nigel Brown, communications manager for the district council, said it had received a complaint that, quote, offensive and racist remarks had been painted on the seafront building. The site was inspected by staff who agreed it could be seen as offensive, and it was removed this morning in line with our policy to remove this type of material within 48 hours. We would obviously welcome an appropriate Banksy original on any of our seafronts and would be delighted if he returned in the future. Just don't say something we don't like. We love Banksy, but just don't say something that we disagree with, or else we'll have to remove it. But we welcome him. He can come back anytime. We would love an original Banksy. You can't have your cake and eat it too, politicians. You want it both ways. You want to censor artists who have a political statement. Oh, but you want their art because that adds value to your properties. Well, F you. You don't get any Banksy art if you remove it. Censors. Nazis. This is Peace News.
Free Talk Live.
You guys live in a dream world.
No, sir, you're the one that lives in a dream world. You're the one that wants to have a police state in America where you get to determine who can come in and who can't. You want to have border patrols. You want to have checkpoints.
You want to let the entire third world into this country?
Sir, I'll answer that question by reading a short excerpt from a poem. Maybe you've heard of it. It happens to appear at the bottom of the Statue of Liberty. It was about...
You're poor, you're tired, huddled masses.
Right, you are aware of it, yes.
Let them come in legally.
Come on, legally, Lou. The legal is such a cop-out. No, hold on a second, because when your ancestors came across, and I don't know what they are, let's say they're Italian. When your ancestors came across, all they did was take you to Ellis Island, screw up your last name, sit you around for 3 days, and then bam, you're out the door. Now legal is a huge pile of paperwork and tens of thousands of dollars.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Majid lives in Nord-Devin, Armenia with his wife, kids, and grandkids, all in the same house. They have cows, but to compete against the big ranchers, Majid needed to get a loan for more cattle. Free Talk Live helped him get a loan for the cows. He bought them, and now he's very happy with the expansion of his farm. You can help us help more people by getting your coffee through coffee.freetalklive.com. Make a difference, 1 cup at a time. Get a free pound to try out the subscription. Cancel it anytime. Coffee.freetalklive.com.
I am a non-attorney spokesperson. Attention men who've taken androgel or any other testosterone therapy products. Androgel or other low-T products have been linked to heart attack, stroke, pulmonary embolism, deep vein thrombosis, even death. Scientific studies indicate that the use of
Check. Hello.
Hey, Derek, what's going on?
Hey, is this L?
Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you just great.
Okay, cool.
What would you like to be called on air?
L and Brooke.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll put you on.
Okay.
We come back in 2 minutes.
Can they see us or just hear us?
They can only hear you. Would you like them to see you?
Not if they don't have to.
Okay. Nope. We will not see you. It will be audio only.
Okay. I mean, I think it might help. I mean, if
okay, if you want them to see us, go ahead.
I can see you, but if you want people to see you, there's another way to do it. We use Google Hangouts for that.
Okay, so you can't do it with Skype here?
Not here, not with Skype. Skype's on a different computer, and I channel it into the board.
Okay.
But you sound wonderful.
Great.
Well, thank you.
Good. All right, I'll put you on in, now it's 1 minute.
LRN.FM.
Free Press Public, independent, alternative media and publishing company founded in June 2009 with the mission of ensuring a free press for the freedom movement and is committed to spreading the message of peace, freedom, love, and liberty.
Hey, I forgot to ask, where are you calling from?
Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Okay, cool.
FPP brings you daily news and commentary on the website fpp.cc, as well as a daily 5-minute newscast, FPP Radio News, and weekly news, views, and commentary in the FPP Freedom Minute and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio at fppradio.com, and the monthly newspaper, FPP News, at news.fpp.cc. Find FPP online at fpp.cc. That's fpp.cc, as in Creative Commons.
Do you love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
What's up, world? Welcome back. This is Peace News, and we welcome your calls. You can dial in, take control, share your stories of peaceful resistance or anything you like. 443-424-8347, or send a Skype contact request to Peace News Now. It'll be accepted, and I'll put you on the air. Hey, we've got a caller on right now. It's Elle and Brooke from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Welcome to Peace News.
Thanks.
So what's on your mind, guys?
Well, I'm trying to open a dog boarding and rescue facility, and I'm looking for help with startup funds.
Cool. All right, where are you starting?
It's in Virginia Beach. I'm right now looking at a commercial property on Kempsville Road.
Okay, cool. So what have you got so far? What have you started with?
Well, Brooke already has a business where she does boarding and home visits for all types of animals. It's called All Critter Pet Sitter, I believe, right?
Yes.
Brooke. And so she's been doing this for several years. She's been active in taking care of animals for over a decade. I'm not sure exactly how long. But she's looking to basically move up, and she can't do that right now with her residential location. But so in order to move into a commercial place, she would need several $1,000s for rent, utilities, appliances like washer and
put in a new sign. If the fence is reinforced.
So she's found a really nice spot with a extremely large backyard that's fenced in, and it's got plenty of space. And she's got plenty of customers right now. And then with the spot it's at right now, with the nice sign out front, she could really expand. And so the website, she has a Facebook page. The website is Beach Dogs Hotel, because we're here in Virginia Beach, so it's pretty easy to remember. So we're hoping, or she's hoping, to raise maybe $5,000 would be really awesome, and that would provide a couple months of the first couple months of expenses in case she didn't get enough business over the first couple months, and then after that, hopefully, it would be self-sustaining. And so Brooke is really active in rescue and things like that. So her dream is to have a self-sustaining business that she can also use to provide spaces for rescue animals. And
wow, what a great idea. What a way to make the world a better place. That just seems like something so exciting to get up every morning and be able to help out these animals who otherwise wouldn't have a home.
It's something I'm passionate about. Thank you.
Yeah, you must be. When did you start doing this?
I started working in rescue when I was 21. That was about 12 years ago. And
what drove you to it? Just a love for animals, or did you have some connection to a rescue business?
Well, I started looking for places to volunteer, and I worked with the animal control shelter in the area, and I volunteered for different rescues in the area. And for a while, I ran my own little rescue, but it's very expensive. I don't think people realize how much it costs to rescue animals.
What types of government interference do you experience when you're rescuing animals?
Lots and lots. There are a lot of shelters that would rather kill the animals than let rescues pull them.
Why is that?
Just because it's what they're used to doing, and they don't like to have to go outside of that and deal with different variables. Around here, also, the dog limit is an issue. My property where I live would be fantastic for my business, but I'm not allowed to have more than 4 dogs at any one time at the house. So
says who?
Location says the city.
Screw them. Do it anyway.
I did in another city, and they showed up at my house and seized all the animals, and I had
No way. Where was that?
I was running a rescue. Yeah.
Where was that?
That was in Norfolk, Virginia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Is that story chronicled anywhere? I mean, I would love to learn more about that.
I mean, I have court records. Ultimately, the animal control officers and everybody were on my side. It was just city regulations. So I had to go to court and show them that I had other places for the animals to go because they weren't all allowed to be at the same property.
Were you entitled to a jury trial?
No, I don't think so.
Yikes. Because I'll bet the jury would be able to say, like, okay, this woman is rescuing dogs. Of course she has more than 4. Yeah. That's fine.
What do they call them? The city prosecutor?
Yeah.
She actually dropped it. She made me show her that they were all going to different places, and she dropped it. She didn't want to pursue it. They just are required to take the dogs away and drag me into court. So,
but in this case, the major problem is that there's the statute that limits her to 4 dogs. But even with that, she kind of goes over that sometimes, like this, like on the weekends, especially when people are going out of town, they need a pet sitter. So I think we had like 6 dogs here over the weekend. We had a pig, a nice little, cute little belly pig that we were watching. That a regular customer about once a month. She watches that, and pretty much all animals are welcome.
Well, do you guys have some sort of peaceful home defense against a next invasion? I mean, I hope you've got a video camera next to the door or something, in case any bureaucrats come a knocking, saying, hey, do you have 5 dogs here?
Don't.
No? Get ready.
That's a good idea.
What about a cell phone, a smartphone, something that can live stream? I mean, if you start building up your audience now, I mean, there's a great farmer. He's like a seditious farmer up in Michigan named Mark Baker, and he was attacked by the local government for having his pigs, and then overnight the government decided these pigs are illegal and you can't have them anymore, so get rid of them. And he said no. And I would love to see people like you and Mark doing that, saying no, and then being ready with the video camera when they come and say, well, we're taking your dogs, or well, we're taking you. I mean, what is their next threat? What is going to happen to you if you don't comply with their rules?
Well, currently there's no conflict with the government. There's neighbors is the real problem. So it's kind of Brooke's been doing it a little bit stealthy. She doesn't let more than maybe 2 dogs out at once.
Yeah.
And kind of rotates. And so right now there's no serious conflict with the government, but in order to move up, I mean, with the facility that she's trying to get, she's looking at doing 12 to 20 animals at once. Whereas with the home here, it would be impossible for her to get to that level with the neighbors that she has, and the statute the way it is, and inevitably, if there was a conflict, the government would win, even if it was documented. I mean, it's just because it is a residential area and the neighbors are kind of crappy.
So it sounds like this is kind of a unique challenge for the agora, for the market, the black market, maybe even, or the white market. Who cares? It's one where a problem needs to be solved. There's people who have watched, and you want to watch them. Let's make this happen. It's going to make the world a better place. So how are you doing most of your fundraising? What do you have, a GoFundMe page?
I do have a GoFundMe page. So far, I've just been forwarding it to email contacts, spreading it on Facebook.
Okay.
But I have a hard time getting it in front of enough people, especially considering almost everyone I know is in rescue and is already, maxed out to everything that they're putting into the different groups and the different causes.
Yeah.
So it's about trying to get it in front of.
So what's your web address? Do you have a shortened URL or something for the GoFundMe?
It's beachdogshotel.com.
Okay.
Yeah, Beach Dogs Hotel, and that'll forward to the Facebook page, which has all of the information.
Yeah, all the details. It'll direct you if you want to go to the GoFundMe page. It also has an address on there for Bitcoin.
Yeah, but
Sweet.
GoFundMe actually takes a cut of it. So if you're looking to donate in dollars, then PayPal would be the easiest way. And Brooke is also offering whatever you donate, you will get more pet sitting in the future. So if you have a dog, you live in Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, you can actually get more pet sitting out of it for what you donate to the cause.
All right. Very exciting. Very cool. Thanks for calling in, Ellen Brooke from Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Thank you.
Good luck. This is Peace News. We welcome your calls. We've got one segment left. Still time for you.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? At home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Hey, did you guys have anything else you wanted to add?
I don't know.
I don't know, like what?
I don't know. If you have your official link, I guess it was just beachdogshotel.com. That's great. That's it. Then I'll let your Skype call go. Thank you so much.
All right, thank
Thanks.
you. Yeah, take it easy.
Dance on Saturday night. From there, I went on join the Free State Project and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. Find out about giving to our Google AdWords campaign at amp.freetalklive.com. That's amp.freetalklive.com.
Did you know that you can listen to LRN.FM 24/7 via our free-to-air satellite channel? From Mexico to Canada, our signal covered all of North America. All you need is a view of the southern sky, an affordable receiver, and a dish as small as 30 inches. There are no monthly fees. Learn more at sat.lrn.fm. Plus, if you're a broadcaster or want to be one, this is a good delivery method for our content. See our coverage map and get details at sat.lrn.fm. That's sat.lrn.fm.
On LRN.FM, we talk a lot about alternative currencies. Did you know that now you can buy gold, silver, and other precious metal bitcoins? LRN.FM has partnered with Amaji Metals to bring you great prices on beautiful 0.999 fine silver.
Hey, James. I'm making some popcorn, so I'm going to be away from the mic for a couple of minutes. but I'll be back.
Please don't eat it on the air.
I'll do what I want.
Twitter or Google Plus. Between the LOL cats, the recipes, the hot girls, and the inspirational sunrise memes, Free Talk Live's posts pass by your newsfeed. Like them, comment. It gives us more exposure. If you don't see our posts, click like at facebook.freetalklive.com and then hover over it to click get notifications. It's an easy way to spread the ideas of liberty a bit further. I know you're busy, but you can spare that 1/10 of a calorie it takes to click on something. facebook.freetalklive.com.
Keenvention is coming up October 31st through November 2nd. Get your tickets now at keenvention.info. Keenvention is your chance to meet dozens of key liberty activists from across the Shire. You can explore the beautiful little city of Keene, discuss various forms of activism with seasoned veterans, attend social events like the costume party. Keenvention received rave reviews last year. If you missed it, visit keenvention.info for full video coverage of every speaker and panel. This year, James Robin Hood Cleveland, Rich Paul, and Free State Project President Carla Garrick will be keynoting, and we'll have all kinds of panels, including the new Cop Block panel and the New Movers panel hosted by the outlaw Josie Wales. Join old and new friends and neighbors in Keene for Keenvention this October 31st, November 2nd. Only 100 tickets are available in advance, so lock yours in now for just $60 or with Bitcoin. Reserve your tickets now at keenvention.info. Visit keenvention.info for more, or look for our page and event on Facebook. That's keenvention.info.
Listen to LRN.FM on any phone, anytime. 213-493-0309. That's 213-493-0309.
This is Peace News. It's our final segment. Just minutes remain. Still time for your calls if you make them quickly. 443-424-8347 is our Hi-Fi Civ Disc call-in line. But first, we've got James in Arizona. James in Arizona, you are on Peace News.
We don't need no thought control.
I agree. What's on your mind?
Well, I thought it was funny that Mark couldn't come up with an example of what he was speaking of. But he was really on the public radios in the Empire of the United States of America. And he ain't got no worries about Two Sons in the Sunset, which is another Roger Waters tune, the last one he ever wrote for the Floyd, by the way. And that was a progressive fear 34 years ago, before Reagan was in his still in his first term. And we haven't been had a nuclear winter yet. And I'm not worried about it, so long as such devices stay out of the hands of bastards like the Islamic State.
So what's on your mind tonight, James?
I'm actually throwing some thoughts at you.
Do you have a topic?
You don't care for what I have to say, or you don't?
You just seem to be rambling. You're not really adding anything to the conversation. This is Peace News. We've got
yourself all over. You talk all over the place too, but that's okay when you do it. I'm trying to offer some thought to you. Mark couldn't come up with anything about thought control.
He
was asked for.
He did. He offered an example.
Well, I offered a counterexample about we haven't been nuked yet, and thank God for that. But I was alluding to what I
wanted to bring that up with him too, because most countries with nuclear power don't get nuked.
Speaking of dominating the conversation and the message is what I wanted to ask.
I'm allowed.
Mark, I know. You love to quote Orwell. If you want to know who your overlord is, just look at who you're not allowed to criticize. I'm calling the. It's another Orwellian quote. You love to quote Orwell.
I said, who's that? Who can't you criticize?
Apparently you, because I was trying to offer some other thoughts that are in contradistinction to the things that you believe. I was leading to the Islamic State, which you seem to talk a lot about. Yet your notion that we should stay out of there and that things will turn out to be okay. Well, it was funny when only other caller I've ever heard since I've listened to you calls in to criticize your beliefs respectfully. He mentioned that you asked him a question about, doesn't it have to do with our involvement in the Middle East? And he aptly and instantly mentioned to you that we've never been in Syria. We haven't had any troops in Syria in your entire life, let alone mine. But it has been ruled by a gangster, bastard, murderer's family for your entire life. And now there's other gangsters and religious fanatics that got root in his country, and now they're spreading their message across borders. Now, I wanted to ask Mark.
All right, you're boring. So get to something fun and interesting quick, or I'm cutting you off.
Like to have anybody make you think a second time. Your beliefs are as hardened in stone as any 25-year-old member of ISIS. Quite literally, you suffer from the same messianic complex.
All right, goodbye. I've got news to share. I'm not like here for your punching bag. I'm not here for that kind of amusement. Let's turn to a story of a wearable drone camera, because this is technology empowering the individual past the point where government can control him, and I think it's exciting. Check it out. It's called Nixie. No, James, you can't call back.
There are moments we want to share and remember. Imagine a camera that goes past your arm's reach. Imagine a camera that gives you a new perspective. Imagine a camera that follows you. Imagine a camera that sets you free. Introducing Nixie, the wearable camera that flies on command. Nixie is the first wearable and flyable camera that you carry on your wrist like a watch. Unfold the flexible bands, and Nixie is ready for takeoff. Nixie is for anyone who wants to capture and share a new perspective on their adventures. Nixie, set your camera free.
The website is flynixie.com, and I think it's pretty exciting. That's the type of technology that I'd like to employ. I carry around a camera with me all the time. Sometimes I use wearable cameras. It can get heavy, it can get intrusive. Just having a watch that can instantly like detach and then become a flying drone that records me and follows me around like based on Wi-Fi or something. Man, that's brilliant. That could enable a person to really be secure if the police are ever attacking them. Boom, set off your little drone and capture it all on video. I mean, yeah, they could still beat you to death, but at least it would be on camera. Maybe it could even be live streamed. Yeah, these types of recording devices do keep us safer. Yeah, police can still act whatever way they want. They're less inclined to act violently when you're recording them. So that's a huge step in the right direction. I'm excited about that. There's no product placement, no paid advertising. It's just, I think it's a really cool product. Nixie, Nixie. So let's turn next to another cool product by Inhabitat.com. It's called the Kaboom Seed Bomb. And it's made for flowers, not war. Check it out. This is an old product, but one that I just stumbled upon. Looking at a green gift that will ease the recipient away. These Kaboom seed booms are just the thing, made up of an explosive mix of organic compost and flower seeds packed into a recycled paper shell. These grenades do more growing than blowing up. All you have to do is chuck one into any soil-filled patch of land and then check back over the next weeks as it fills with its fragrant flora. Very cool and exciting. There's some positive comments that seed bombing is just about to jump to a new level. This is something we've talked about on Peace News before, the idea of people planting seeds all around, maybe City Hall, maybe different government buildings, maybe just wooded areas, of putting marijuana seeds or forbidden plants all around your local environment. It's a good idea to also do it with flowers. You know, just a cute little peaceful way to bomb the ground with flowers. Next, we turn to another farming story of some farmers who are getting naked. Some lady farmers are taking it off to help raise money for a farm. What's this story about? Well, there's a nude calendar in the works by some female farmers. The story from the Huffington Post. James Cave writes, 2 Florida women hope that by selling a pinup calendar featuring naked female farmers and strategically placed produce, they can raise enough money for a down payment on some new land. That's the pitch behind an Indiegogo campaign from 10 Speed Greens Urban Farm. The company's owners, Claire Mitchell and Danielle Grusinski, are currently farmless. The landlord of their previous farm wanted to build homes there instead. So the ladies and their friends decided to strip down tastefully and rally folks to donate to their cause. Take a look at their video at Indiegogo.com. So there will be 12 months of vegetables and 12 months of babes. And then there are, you know, there's fruit around their naked bodies, and they're using tractors, holding flowers. Well, you get a reduced price. They've already more than exceeded their goal of $4,000. They've raised over $25,000. It's called Farmer Tan's Calendar Printing, and it's for a good cause. I want to see people doing something perfectly natural, perfectly peaceful, being naked, taking pictures around produce, and raising money for a farm so that they can grow more produce. It's just one of those adventures that's making the world a better place. Some stories that we didn't get to today that you'll see in this episode's show notes. A St. Louis orchestra was interrupted by Michael Brown protesters. Twitter bans the fake White House press secretary who was doing a parody. Obama plays Hooky as Secretary General. There's video of a body cam capturing an execution by police. We might show that on Cop Block Radio later this week. Plus Detroit's Batman and Ray McGovern triumphs over the State Department. Until next time, we'll catch you Tuesday. This has been Peace News. Free Talk Live is up next.
The Tallahassee Zoo, which faced a major budget crisis.